Hi everyone and welcome to this video. In this video I want to show you how to unit test your Laravel controller using PHP-tt library. Okay, so first I want to install the library. So let me just run this command. Now after the library is installed, it's good to run the self-test script that comes with the library and see if everything's okay. So self-test basically makes the library test itself. You see 85 assertions. Okay, so normally you would use this runner. Because we have no tests at the moment, it displays 0 assertions. Okay, now let's go and write our first unit test. So in this video I will be using this controller, but first let me go to this controller here, because I want to write my first test using this dummy controller just to show you how it looks. So the first test will be like this, assert, and we pass the parameter here, say developer, and we're expecting this result, hello developer. Hello developer. And now let's run the test, but in order to run this test I will use this other runner. So instead of using run.php, I'm going to be using lararun.php, because this runner will boot Laravel for us, but it will not boot the full version of Laravel. It will skip some providers like database provider and log provider. But mostly all your Laravel functions will be available, like all your facades and so on. So we're going to be using this runner because it supports Laravel. Okay, so it has done one assertion for us. And yeah, that's it for this dummy controller. Now let's move on to this actual controller that we will be testing. So as you see, this controller is, well, it's fairly simple. It defines this set of rules and this error messages, and it will validate the request, here the user input, and if the validation fails, it is going to redirect us back, and if the validation is passed, then it will create a user and redirect us to the thank you page. So let's just take this test and copy and paste it here in this controller and see what happens. So you see this test resulted in an error, and the error goes like this. We expected hello developer string, but instead we got this object. So how are we going to test this controller? So in PHP-tt you can create your custom assertion by using a callable. So we'll use callable, assert callable, and we need to define a callable. So in order to do that, we need to create a file here. This PHP-tt data is the default folder of the library. So we'll create a file here, test.php, and in this file I will create an array, and this here will be my callable. It's fairly simple. It takes result. So this is the result of the execution of this method, and let's just print this result. And here, in order for this to work, we'll just, so first of all, because this function doesn't take any parameters, we can drop this here first part, and we'll just go straight to the second part. And here we define the path to our callable. Test.myCallable. And let's just delete this. Okay, now let's run this. Oh, yeah, this here is definitely a mistake. Okay, let's do it again. And you see we got our result printed out. And this here is the error messages that the validator created for us. And you see it created all three messages. Email is required, phone is required, password is required. This is because our request contains nothing, no data. So let's get this error messages. So first of all, let me take this class here, and we'll assume that we'll get this redirect response. And I want to get my errors. So errors is response get session get errors. Let me print out the errors. Okay, and yeah, we actually can convert them to array. And let's just do this. Let's just simplify it a bit. Let's say string errors equals print underscore r errors to array true, and let's return. So this callable thingy should return a boolean value, should return bool. So let's return str contains haystack. Our haystack is string errors, and expected goes here, and let's just assume that it contains the expected substring. And in order to pass my expected parameter, I need to modify this callable here a bit. So let's assume that it contains email is required. All right, let's run it. Okay. Right. So let's create a couple more tests like this. I believe that this message should be present, and also this one, password is required. Okay, we got 4 assertions now. All right, so how do we pass parameters to the request? So this is done, well, because we cannot pass parameters here, we should mock this function, this method. So let's create a mock. PHP-tt mock, and then this here will be the method that we try to mock, and this here we will specify what result we want to get from our mock. Let's assume that the user has filled out the email form, or the email field in the form with this incorrect email, like hello world. Okay, so, and after this, we expect this message to be email must be a valid email address. So instead of email is required, we will expect this one here. Okay. Okay. Now we've got 5 assertions now. And let us assume that we actually expecting this message not to be present anymore. So how do we do this? Well, there are a couple of ways, but one simple way is just to modify this callable. We can pass a second parameter, say true equals true. And so if true is true, then we'll return this, and if not, then we'll just return the opposite. All right. And so here we now have a second parameter for our callable. Actually, it's the third one. Okay, so here we assume that we don't have this substring. All right. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. Of course, that's not it for testing this method. So in the next part, so this was just part 1, and in the next part, I will show you more options for testing this method. And yeah, so we'll test every possible option here. And we'll also create an alias for our callables, because as you can see already now, this is quite crammed up with, well, basically it keeps repeating the same thing, and it's like it can be simplified. Okay, thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel, and goodbye.